Hello there. I'm hoping you're having a great day. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that has been on my mind a lot recently. And yes, I'm reading off a script. I don't usually write scripts for my videos, but this time I decided to try it because I don't want to forget any of the talking points I'm about to make. Another reason besides that is the fact that even when I can understand and write English just fine, it doesn't go so smoothly when I'm trying to speak it in my videos. The reason for that being the fact that when I think of a sentence in my first language, which is Finnish, the word order can be different from the English word order. So when I start translating my thoughts formed in Finnish inside my head, I often notice that I'm translating the sentences too directly, word to word, making the word order grammatically incorrect. This tends to happen mainly when I'm recording. I'm guessing the fact that I'm recording puts a little bit of performance anxiety on me. Alright, let's get started. So, I've recently been on a dry January. I don't drink as much as I used to when I was younger, but I thought that it would be interesting to try it nonetheless. The last time I was on a dry January before this was back in 2020. If being honest, abstaining from alcohol these past weeks has been rather easy for me. I struggle more with my caffeine addiction, especially when it comes to energy drinks. But it wasn't always like that for me. I used to drink a lot more in my late teens. I think it's a common phase for teenagers after they turn 18 and are legally allowed to buy and consume alcohol here. And I also think that the fact that the quarantines, online school, and all such started right after I just turned 18 affected this stage in my life as well. So I was very bored most of the time during the spring of 2020, and I turned drinking into a habit to pass the time. But even after the things got back to relatively normal, my habit continued. It was late 2021 when I finally started drinking less again. So yeah, I had a period of a little less than 2 years, which consisted of regular drinking. Now I don't really think I'm so special when it comes to that. Just thought to share my own experiences before talking more about the topic at hand. Some of the reasons for why I don't want to drink as much anymore include the mental fog. Even if not hungover, I often notice how it's difficult to concentrate the day after drinking. I have ADD, so that's probably making it even worse for me. Basically, drinking for one evening means sacrificing 2 days, since I won't be as productive during that day or the next one. Even just watching a show on Netflix is often difficult the next day after drinking, not to mention the tendency to wake up later, so it ends up feeling like the day after drinking goes to waste. For those of you who don't know, I would like to tell you that my home country, Finland, has quite a problem with alcohol. It is estimated that roughly around 400,000 members of the population could be alcoholics. That might not initially sound like much, but do keep in mind that the total population is just roughly around 5.5 million residents. It's also worth considering that Finland has relatively strict laws when it comes to alcohol, and alcohol products are also heavily taxed, making them more expensive. I am just using Finland as an example, but I'm sure that the things I'm going to talk about are relatable to people in other countries too. One of the things I have noticed is that it's considered a sort of norm to drink every week, or nearly every week at least. A lot of people here can stay functional throughout the work week, but as soon as the weekend arrives, they'll just have to get drunk. It seems like it's some sort of mandatory activity to do during weekends and holidays. A lot of the people are very keen on drinking, but still manage to fight off the urge from Monday to Friday evening. But as the Friday evening arrives, it starts a sort of countdown that lasts until Sunday morning. If you want to drink, this is your time window. You have to do it now. And it seems like if a person goes the whole weekend without drinking, it's the same as if the weekend was wasted. Like they just missed an important experience and the opportunity is now gone. To get drunk during the weekend is the expectation. Staying sober is more like the unfortunate exception. And now, after they have missed their time window to drink, they must return to their dull work life without even enjoying the weekend properly. Or that's how it seems, at least. But, in my opinion, a person should be able to enjoy their weekends without necessary drinking. And I'm not saying it's wrong to drink, I just think it'd be better to drink alcohol in moderation. But even drinking in moderation doesn't really exactly remove the damage done to a person's health, but it does minimize it. I have noticed that a relatively large portion of the people that are willing to talk about how alcohol is bad for you are actually guys who smoke weed. And they're basically being like, imagine drinking poison that dissolves your brains. Haha, you should smoke weed instead. But I don't think that weed is good for you either. What they're doing is just replacing one poison with another. And I also think that there's a lot of denialism among weed smokers when it comes to the negative side effects of smoking weed. To put it short, they're just replacing one bad habit with another. I am also guilty of this to a degree. I have started eating more when I have cut down on my other vices. What I think you should actually do is replacing your drinking habit with a healthy habit. There's this idea that the amount of vices a person has stays the same. So if a person were to hypothetically quit drinking, they will start smoking cigarettes, or perhaps they'd start overeating. I do think that there's some truth to this. If you quit a habit, what are you going to do with the spare time that you have now? Or where are you going to get your dopamine release from now? So just simply quitting a habit isn't enough. You need to replace it with another one. Preferably something healthy, but even something that could be considered neutral would be a lot better. Am I saying that you should quit? Not necessarily, but I will suggest drinking less often. I know that it's easy to get very defensive about this topic, since it's not so nice when someone is saying that what you're doing could potentially be wrong. And I'm not the perfect man in any way, but that shouldn't stop us from striving to be better versions of ourselves. Anyway, as for the glorification of alcohol consumption, I have noticed how especially young people tend to portray drinking as something epic. I have done that with my friends too, saying things like, "We are taking over the nightlife," when in reality we are just drinking at bars, as if that was some really big accomplishment. I also think that drinking songs play a big part into glorifying alcohol. I have really enjoyed my share of drinking songs myself, to be honest. Back when I was drinking a lot more often, I also enjoyed this reputation I had of being able to drink more than the other guys. That was foolish. I do realize that not everyone who drinks is like that, but just thought to mention that as well. Since we are now on the topic of socializing, I want to share a few of my observations when it comes to being social and drinking. First of all, too much of our socializing revolves around alcohol. It feels very difficult to arrange any gatherings with a larger group of friends if drinks aren't involved, since alcohol is probably one of the few, if not even the only, common interests that every friend in the group shares. When it comes to hanging out with each friend separately, I could probably find something that both parties are interested in. But when all the different individuals are together, alcohol is the main thing that's a common interest with everyone who is present. Also, at least here in Finland, bars are the few places where it's socially acceptable to meet new people without coming off as too weird. If you greet a stranger on the street, you're probably seen as weird. But suddenly, when everyone is drunk, it's okay to talk with strangers. Makes me think that it must be very difficult for people who have totally abstain from alcohol to get to know new people. Apparently, it's common for shy people to use alcohol to ease off their anxiety. And I can understand that. But I also think that it's sad that a person can socialize without getting tipsy first. I would recommend trying to slowly get used to talking to people without any alcohol in your blood. I know it can be difficult, but it's better than being dependent on a drink when it comes to meeting new people. I have picked some Bible verses on this topic. And yes, I know a lot of you guys watching are secular or belong to a religion other than Christianity. And I wish you all the best. However, this is something that I want to do. And yes, I am fully aware that the Bible doesn't prohibit drinking, but it does prohibit being a drunkard. I think a big part of why being a drunkard is bad is that when you're addicted, alcohol becomes your new master. You'll spend your money and time on it. Your life starts to slowly revolve around it. Even when you're not drinking, you're thinking about it constantly. So in a sense, alcohol becomes your lord. But anyway, let's continue. I'm using the King James Version. Not because I necessarily think it's the best, but because I think it's the most widely accepted translation that I know of. I would also encourage you to open the verses in your own Bible, if possible. So the first verse to look at is Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 7, and the verse says, Go thy way, eat thy bread with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for God now accepteth thy works. Notice how the verse says, and drink thy wine. That confirms to me that as a Christian, total abstinence is not necessary. But do not fall into the trap of thinking that you shall drink as much as you want. Now, let's open Ephesians chapter 5, verse 18, which says, And be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. So I will say that drinking in excess is bad. Let's continue with Proverbs chapter 20, verse 1. Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. I find these words to be very true. Some people turn aggressive when they drink, which leads to vain fights. I've actually witnessed a few of these situations myself. Now it's time for Proverbs chapter 21, verse 17. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. Just think about how much money gets wasted on the habit. And it's usually not only the drinks that cost, but when people drink, they also tend to get fast food, which adds extra cost to the night. Now, let's read Isaiah chapter 28, verse 7. But they also have erred through wine, and through strong drink are out of the way. The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. I mean, how true is that? Drinking often leads us to a poor decision making. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 23. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it. And finally, Proverbs chapter 23, verses 29 and 30. Who had woe? Who had sorrow? Who had contentions? Who had babbling? Who had wounds without cause? Who had redness of eyes? They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to sea, seek mixed wine. If you watched this far, I'd like to thank you. May you have a great day, and thanks again for watching this video. Farewell.